To bring in Karen Pittman from the Forum for Youth Investment. Speaking of partnership, where do you see potential for partnerships between the nonprofit sector and the government?
Almost everywhere. I think that when we think about nonprofits, we think first and foremost of organizations that have created the kind of innovative, comprehensive programs that Melody just talked about, Youth Build and Year Up, et cetera. And the nonprofit sector plays a huge role in making sure that we can bring that innovation together, making sure that we have national networks like the National Youth Employment Coalition that really cobble together the lessons that are being learned across the country and pull them up. But in addition to that, and making sure that we're constantly working at the federal and the state levels to make sure that we have the resources to take those programs to scale, the other word that's been used a lot today is partnerships. And we've said over and over again, Patrick started by saying this isn't just one system, it isn't just one program. Joel talked about the importance of having folks really bring that comprehensive set of services to him, even though in his mind what got his attention was the word, job and money. Those things cut across so many policies, from education to workforce investment to juvenile justice, foster care, child welfare, social services, Medicaid, and then we don't even think about hidden policies at the state level and the local level that affect young people, like transportation and housing. Things that often provide low-hanging fruit that when we're helping young people reconnect, when we're helping them take advantage of opportunities, it's often childcare and housing and transportation that become the barriers. And those are the things that we don't think about. So there are a couple of things that I think are really wonderful opportunities for partnership between the nonprofit sector and federal and state and local government. One is really to explore this idea of what it takes to have those partners at the table. This takes permanent coordinating bodies, whether we're talking about children's cabinets at the state level, we're talking about youth commissions at the local level, whether it's in the mayor's office or the county council. We don't just bring people to the table to look at things for a minute and say, oh, let's put together a plan. We really have to begin to invest in permanent coordinating bodies that are looking at policies, looking for low-hanging fruit, and building the level of trust that's needed to really start to, in some ways, do horse swapping, to make sure that the kind of opportunities that are happening for young people and are available. The language change that's being proposed from disconnected youth to opportunity youth really needs to be paralleled in our systems. We need to move from disconnected systems and disconnected policies to opportunity systems and opportunity policies in which we're not waiting for young people to fail and then looking for the policy or the program that supports them. We, as adults, especially those who are looking at policies and resources, are really looking in advance to do that. So one of the things that the Forum has been doing, which I think is a small but critical role, is figuring out how we advance the dialogue between federal, state, and local coordinating bodies, where we've already got folks coming to the table saying, we think we understand the need for flexibility, we understand the need for waivers, we understand the need to really look across these policies and figure out how we can help them fit together. But how do we do that? We don't just sort of do a blanket, let's let everybody do everything. We have to do that with some level of specificity. And so the idea of having waivers to help communities that want to do the work that Melody talked about has been raised. And we and other folks have been working with the Office of Budget Management to really make sure, management and budget, to make sure that when we look at the idea of performance pilots, we look at the idea of offering flexibility to cobble together those dozens of programs that you need to have in exchange for performance going to scale. Right? So we'll give you the flexibility to use the dollars differently, but the bottom line is we really have to move the needle for these young people at a level where we can see this happening. In order to have that flexibility and in order to really take advantage of that, you need a sophisticated partnership, not one that was just thrown together on the back of an envelope, but the right people in the right room with the right conviction, with enough time and enough trust that they can get the job done. And we need those dialogues to be happening from local to state to federal. And one of the things that's been very exciting about our work over the past couple of years, and when I say our work, I mean Elizabeth Gaines and Thaddeus Ferber, who are here in the room someplace, because they really do the work at the Forum. But one of the things that has been exciting is actually creating opportunities for those dialogues. And what we learned very quickly was that there's a word that gets thrown out all the time, which is barriers. There are barriers to being able to do this flexible work. And what we found was that the main barrier is that we are extremely risk averse. So if we're working with young people who perhaps have taken too many risks in their lives, on the policy side, we're working with folks who don't like to take risks at all. And what we found is that when we got them sitting together talking very concretely about what would it take? What would it take to make increased transportation and housing options for young people? Well, you look at the piece of paper and they'd say, well, there's a barrier here. The feds say we can't do this, or the states say we can't do this. And then if you actually have those folks in the room, they say, no, we didn't say you couldn't do it. And then it turns out that what we didn't say is that you could do it. So how people are reading policy is if it doesn't tell me I can do it, I'm going to assume I can't. That's a culture that we have to change. And one of the key ways that nonprofits can work together is really just create the opportunities for these conversations. That turns out to be a very important piece. As we're doing that, we obviously then have to continue to talk about and figure out how we're going to scale up these important programs. But the bottom line is we need to be coordinating our policies. We need our policies to be calling for the use of permanent coordinating bodies rather than calling for new coordinating bodies. We need mechanisms to look across policies at the same time and figure out how we can increase flexibility around eligibility, around outcomes, around how dollars are used, and most importantly, we really need to be increasing the conversations vertically that are happening from federal to state to local.
I'd love to